Minister of Education says Grade 5 scholarship examination and advanced level examination will be held as planned. No need of imposing island-wide curfew at the moment, says Commander of Sri Lanka Army.
මේක පැය 24 විතරට විශ්ලේෂණය කරන්න ලබනවා. දැනට ඔබතුමා ඇහුවේනේ. දැනට මේ අහන පැයේ එහෙම දෙයක් පේන්නේ.
Venerable Muruthettuwe Anandathero opposes the removal of Dr. Jaruan Bandara from his post at the MRI. Harin Fernando's PCR test sparks debate in Parliament. Was the document presented by the Attorney General as amendments to the 20th at the committee stage approved by the Cabinet? Samagi Jana Balawega questions the government.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Sandru Ferdinando. Let's start off with your local news. The government has announced that the Grade 5 scholarship and the advanced level examinations will be held as scheduled. This was confirmed by Education Minister Gia Peiris during a media briefing held today.
There are doubts in the country on what would be the government's decision with regards to these examinations. These exams were already postponed twice. Therefore, the government wants to conduct the exams under the health guidelines instead of postponing it any further. The Grade 5 scholarship was scheduled to be held this Sunday, which is the 11th of October. The advanced level examination was scheduled to be held on Monday, the 12th of October. It will run until the 6th of November. A total of 331,000 candidates will sit for the Grade 5 scholarship examination across 2,932 examination centres. 362,000 candidates will sit for the advanced level examination that will be conducted at 2,648 centres. Accordingly, each examination centre will accommodate a maximum of 160 candidates. We wish to clearly state that there is an uncertainty over the manner in which this virus is spreading. The government's decision at present is to conduct the exam as planned. We have prepared a special work plan regarding the candidates in the Gampaha district and also on the candidates who would have to travel from the Gampaha district to other districts. We have paid special attention to ensure that examination centres are disinfected and that face masks are worn during exams. We have prepared the environment required to conduct the exam.
මේ විභාග පැවැත්වීම සඳහා වටාපිටාව පරිසරය සකස් කර තියෙනවා.
ඒතර මේක මේ අලුත් දෙයක්
Although this is a new situation for us, there is a mechanism that we follow while conducting examinations at times of a disaster in the country. The Election Commission said it would provide us the remaining disinfectant and face masks that were purchased for the election. They said they would give it to us through the district secretaries. We have obtained the numbers of students who travelled to Colombo from the Gampaha district during the last few days from all the schools. That was to decide whether we should allow candidates to travel to Colombo or to retain them there. If we change the examination centres, the candidates might feel slightly uncomfortable with that. Therefore, we decided to stick to the examination centres allocated previously for these candidates. We have prepared a form to collect the details of students. The form would be uploaded in near future. We would require information on the area of the student, their mode of travel to the examination centre, the situation in their areas, and whether the candidate had obtained medication recently. This form would be uploaded on the website of the Education Ministry to help us obtain an idea about the current situation. We will update this information daily in the morning and evening at exam centres as well. If a candidate is infected with COVID-19, we have established a centre at the IDH hospital. We will allow the candidate to attempt the exam under the eyes of a supervisor.
අපි කරන වැඩේ මේ ළමයාගේ විභාග ප්‍රශ්න පත්‍රෙත් එක්කලා අපි සුපර්වයිසර් කෙනෙකුගේ මෙයා දීලා අපි මෙතන තියෙනවා.
ගම්පහ දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ දැන් නිරෝධායනය වෙලා සිටින පවුල් වල ඉන්න ළමයිට මේ විභාගයට සහභාගී වෙන්න විශේෂ වැඩපිළිවෙලක් තියෙනවාද?
මේ විශේෂ මධ්‍යස්ථානයක් පිහිටුවීමට අදහස් කරනවා. මේ දින කිහිපය අපිට ප්‍රමාණවත් වෙනවා විශේෂ මධ්‍යස්ථානයක් පිහිටුවීමට පියවර ගැනීම.
ප්‍රායෝගික වෙයිද තොරතුරු සපයන්නට නොහැකි දුෂ්කර පළාතක ඉන්න ළමයෙකුට තමන්ගේ තොරතුරු සපයන්න.
අපේක්ෂකයව නෙවෙයි අපි මේකට.
We don't want to inconvenience the candidates. The parents and guardians of these children will be able to do that. We have regional directors. They have the details of how many students are sitting for the exam. There will only be a few external candidates. However, we might not be able to implement it accurately. Nevertheless, you might admit that this is a good attempt.
On every occasion, I emphasize that we must act in line with the health guidelines. All of us know whether it was a majority or a small group in the country that followed that.
නැත්නම් අවම ප්‍රමාණයක් කරාද නැද්ද කියන එක. ඉතින්
ගුවන් තොටුපොළ පිරිසුදු කරන්නියක් මේ පිළිබඳ පොසිටිව් වෙලා තියෙනවා කියලා. ඒ පිළිබඳ තොරතුරු ඔබතුමාට ආවද?
ඔව් ඒ තත්ත්වයක් තිබෙනවා.
There is a situation like that. We have received reports stating a woman who was lodged at the garment factory had been infected. Some others who were there had also contracted the virus.
යති බවටත් වාර්තා වෙනවා.
ඒ වගේම නෑ අමිතුමාට දැන් මේ විදේශවල ඉන්න අය බරපතල ලෙස සටනක් කරනවා ලංකාවට ගේන්න කියලා. දැන් මේ වන විට ඒක තවමත් ක්‍රියාත්මකද නැත්නම් తాවකාලිකව නවත්තලා තියෙන්නේ?
ඊයේ දිනේදී පමණක් විදේශ
10 individuals who returned to the country yesterday have been infected. The government never attempted to stop this process, although it was halted for brief periods. It wants to bring back these expatriates because they are Sri Lankans. However, we will bring them back in a systematic manner.
නමුත් යම් කිසි සැලසුමකට අනුව අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ගෙන්නනවා.
ඔබතුමාට මේක අපිට ලොක්ඩවුන් එකකට යන්න වෙයිද කියලා දල වශයෙන් හරි දැනෙන්නේ නැද්ද නිකන් නිලවලට?
දැන් මෙහෙමයි නිල
The situation is being reviewed once in every 24 hours. A team of specialists are looking into this situation. Therefore, we will impose it if there is a need to do that. However, at the moment in which you are asking this, there is no need to do that.
මේ අහන පැයේ එහෙම දෙයක් පේන්නේ නැහැ.
Chairman of the University Grants Commission, Professor Sampath Amaratunga, said that the University of Kelaniya and the Vikramarachya Ayurvedic University in Gampa have been temporarily closed due to COVID-19. However, he added that other universities will remain open. He noted that students entering universities from areas where curfew has been imposed can attend lectures conducted online.
Quarantine curfew has been imposed in 18 police jurisdictions in the Gampaha district until further notice. According to the police, these police jurisdictions fall under the divisions of the Gampaha, Kelaniya and Nigambo areas. 14 police jurisdictions in the Gampaha division, namely Gampaha, Ganemulla, Kinidivella, Dompe, Malratu Hiripitiya, Mirigama, Nittambua, Pugoda, Veyangoda, Minuangoda, Veeragula, Valiveria and Pallewala as well as Yakkala are currently under quarantine curfew. In addition to this, quarantine curfew is in effect for the police jurisdictions of Jayala and Kandana under the Kelaniya division and the police jurisdictions of the Sidua and Dulapiti areas. People residing in these areas are advised to remain indoors during the quarantine curfew period. Long-distance passenger transport buses are permitted to travel across these areas as well. However, these buses are not allowed to stop in these areas, board passengers or let passengers get off the buses. Furthermore, police headquarters noted that trains are not permitted to stop at stations located in areas where quarantine curfew is imposed.
Gampaha district තුල police වසම්
There are 33 police divisions in the Gampaha district. Out of those 33, 18 police divisions are under quarantine curfew until further notice. Transport across these areas is permitted. Train operations across these areas are permitted, but no personnel is allowed to be boarded to public transport or allowed to get off from public transport from that area. If someone does that, that will be a violation of quarantine law.
හැකියාවක් ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙම කරනවා නම් එය නිරෝධායන රීතින් යටතේ වරදක් වෙනවා.
A special announcement was made to the people who are employed at the Brandix apparel factory in Minuanguda and who are residing and living on rent in the area.
යම් ආකාරයකට හොඳ ප්‍රතිචාර දක්වලා තියෙන බවටයි වාර්තා වෙන්නේ. ඉතින් අපේ අරමුණ මේ
So far there is a good response. There are 1,400 internal employees at this apparel factory. Now we have taken steps to direct them and the people who had close contact with them to quarantine. Therefore it is of utmost importance that people comply with this quarantine order. There is a cloud of uncertainty when it comes to the source of this. Sri Lanka police, the health authorities and the intelligence units believe that we will be able to unravel the source of this from future investigations.
තියෙන්නේ. එය ඉදිරි විමර්ශන වලින් මම හිතන්නේ සනාථ කරගන්න හැකි වෙයි කියලා සෞඛ්‍ය බලධාරීනුත් අපිත් බුද්ධ්‍යංශත් විශ්වාස කරනවා.
Health authorities request the public to visit the eye hospital only for emergencies, clinical treatment and essential services. This is due to the inability to treat patients while maintaining social distancing in the hospital. The Judicial Service Commission has instructed to provide another date for the cases scheduled in the areas where the curfew is in effect and to display it on the notice boards in the relevant courtrooms. Accordingly, after the curfew period has ended, one can go to the relevant court premises following the health guidelines in order to obtain date of recall of one's case.
The number of COVID-19 infected employees at the factory in Minuangoda has increased to 1,031. The number of positive cases reported today is 202. 739 cases were identified yesterday, which is the highest number of infections reported in the country in a single day. The army said that nearly 8,000 people associated with the COVID-19 cluster in Minuangada have been sent to quarantine centres.
There are some patients with symptoms such as phlegm, fever and respiratory difficulties. Some are asymptomatic. When compared to the viral load of results we obtained from the tests we carried out on clusters of patients we identified earlier, the new cluster's viral load is high. It could be because of two things. One is this could be the initial stage of the outbreak, which means that these are new patients and we have detected the virus in the initial stage itself. The second could be a change in the virus's behavior. If the viral load is high, the possibility of it spreading is high as well. There is a health minister. Yesterday we expected her to apprise the House of the current situation surrounding COVID-19. However, the minister wasn't present yesterday. She isn't here today as well. She has arrived now. My apologies for that. I was speaking while facing you. During the general election, they said COVID-19 was over and that it has been completely eradicated. If that is the case, how has a massive wave formed? We have received information that this began after a group of Indians arrived in the country and visited the factory without undergoing PCR tests. There is an issue like that. I wish to request the Ministry of Health to clarify whether this is only gossip or whether these are true or false.
When making decisions regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, we respected the expert advice by health units. It was based on their advice that we made decisions to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Yesterday alone, we were able to conduct around 4,200 PCR tests. This does not include only the employees at that factory. We have carried out tests on individuals who had come into contact with these employees as well. We have also decided to use the Neville Fernando Teaching Hospital for the treatment of COVID-19 patients. The President, Prime Minister and the government are acting in a responsible manner by holding talks with health authorities and security units as well. The President held talks with health and defence units at 10 a.m. today as well. I came to Parliament after that discussion.
There are allegations regarding the process of conducting tests, stating that the number of tests had decreased after the parliamentary election. Yesterday, the notice on curfew had been published on the Facebook page of the Department of Government Information and then removed within 5 minutes before uploading it again this morning. When it comes to important information such as curfews, please verify the facts before publishing them. Otherwise, it sends out a wrong message to the people.
We continued to conduct tests. We informed all main hospitals above the range of base hospitals in the country that it is mandatory to test at least 10 patients daily. That is how we were able to identify patients.
During the height of the pandemic, he called for the usage of the medicine called Plaquenil based on the advice of doctors. Therefore, it is good if medical advice is taken into consideration as well. We know what happened as a result of using that medication.
As an expert in distorting statements, Mahindananda Alutgamage made a false statement here. Please let me explain. I expressed those remarks on the medication based on the views that were put forward by various medical bodies overseas. I asked to consider whether it is suitable for the country or not, and to implement it if it is suitable.
සුදුසුද නුසුදුසුද කියන කාරණාව ගැන හොයලා බලලා සුදුසු නම් එය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න.
A curfew has not been imposed across the entirety of the Gampaha district yet. The people in several areas including Kalaniya, Biyagama, Palyagoda, Battala are conducting themselves in a normal manner since there is no curfew. It
is easy for us to place the entire country under lockdown. However, as a government, we wish to remind that the decisions on imposing curfews are made based on the directives of health authorities in line with the detection of patients. This is an evolving process. The government does not hesitate to impose curfews in the areas of these patients. However, we impose curfews based on the detection of patients.
Under whose influence were the Indians allowed to enter the country without undergoing quarantine? A person by the name of Harsha Abevikrama is the chief security officer at the Brandix factory. There is suspicion that he had intervened and allowed them to enter the country. Investigate this first. Find out the point from which this had originated.
Dr. Alutge of the Government Medical Officers Association has said that the virus load in the new COVID-19 wave is higher. Is there any truth to that?
Virologists are conducting investigations into these matters. If the virus load is high, we will hospitalize those patients and provide them the necessary treatment. We will carry out contact tracing and then direct them to undergo quarantine as well. If the virus load is high, then let it be. There is nothing we can do about it.
රෝගියෙක් පැනලා ගියා. අයියෝ පොඩක් ඉන්නකො මේ වැදගත් දෙන්නේ. රජයක් විදියට අපි කිසිම විදියකට තොරතුරු සැඟවීමක් කරලා නැහැ. අමතුමි හංගලයි කියලා. මෙතුමිය කිව්වා විවාදයකට සූදානම් කියලා අපිට දවස් දෙකක විවාදයක් ඕන. ඒක වෙනම ගන්න ඉල්ලන්න. පක්ෂ නායක රැස්වීමේදී ඉල්ලන්න ඒක.
A raging debate has arisen by now regarding a rumor which is circulating regarding a group of people who arrived in the country from India travelling to the apparel factory in Minuangoda. Reports are circulating on social media at present regarding a group of Indian nationals who arrived at the Mattala International Airport from Visakhapatnam, India on the 22nd of September. Social media reports suggested the group of Indians arrived at the Mattala Airport aboard flight UL1159 chartered by Brandix. Brandix issued another official statement today regarding the matter and said no parties from India or any other country had access to the Minuangoda facility. The statement read, quote, "We operated 3 chartered flights from Visakhapatnam, India for our Sri Lankan employees working in India and their families who returned to Sri Lanka. We confirm that they, including their families, followed the Sri Lanka government protocol for the prevention and control of COVID-19, which includes PCR testing and a 14-day mandatory quarantine at a government-regulated quarantine facility, as well as the 14-day self-quarantine process done under the supervision of the respective PHIs," end quote. The statement further added none of these Sri Lankans nor their family members visited the Minuangoda facility. Newsfirst inquired regarding the matter from the head of the National Operations Centre for the Prevention of COVID-19, Command of the Sri Lanka Army, Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva. The Lieutenant General confirmed to Newsfirst that 45 passengers had arrived from India and that the group had been subjected to undergo PCR tests. He also revealed that all the PCR tests had turned out negative. He added that none of the individuals were Indian nationals.
Meanwhile, a discourse has arisen on the removal of Dr. Jairwan Bandara from his position as the director of the Medical Research Institute.
We don't have any objection to changing the director, but it could have been done at a better time. They have demoted and replaced him with an official who was second in the hierarchy. This is not an ethical thing to do. I questioned the Minister of Health, Pavitra Vanyarache, about this. She said she was not aware of anything relating to this matter. Even the Prime Minister said that he heard about this demotion but wasn't aware as to who demoted him. So there is nothing left to say with regard to our health sector when such a loved and renowned person is looked down upon like this by the responsible authorities of our country. Honourable President, I have to reiterate that our health sector has fallen to the lowest. It is sinking day by day. The administration has collapsed. Some higher-ups are just warming up their seats. There is no Director General of Health in our country. The suitable person for that position has been discarded and a person with fewer qualifications has been appointed as the Acting Director General of Health.
People who are waiting to rob money from tenders are going to be disappointed. Maybe that is what caused this demotion to Dr. Jairwan Bandara.
ටෙන්ඩර් කාකු ගැන කතා කරනවා නම් ඔය අමාත්‍යාංශයේ වෙනම සාකච්ඡාවක් අපිට කරන්න පුළුවන් දවසකට.
හවුදුනේ දැන් ඇමතුමිය දන්නේ නැහැ කියනවා කවුද කලේ කියලා ඇමතුමිය හොයන්න හදසක් නැද්ද?
කවුද මේකද නැති මේක කරලා තියෙන ලේකම්තුමා අත්නම් කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
මේ වෙලාවේ ඇමතිතුමිය එයා දන්නේ නැහැ කියලා ඇඟ බේරා ගැනීමක් කරන්නේ. අපේ නායකහරු මොකද කියන්නේ කියලා.
නමුත් මම හිතනවා මේක නම් ඇඟ බේරා ගන්න ඇඟ.
But she won't be able to save herself from us. We would like to say that fearlessly. We have battled with much more powerful philosophers and leaders. We have made them kneel before us. If they don't hear us out, we will bring this issue to the limelight along with the people.
ඊට ගෙනියනවා.
අපි වහන්සලා ගෙනාපු ආණ්ඩුවේ නායකයා ජනාධිපතිතුමාව දැනුවත් කරා නම් මේක ලේසි.
ජනාධිපතිතුමා ඊජුමක් කරියා.
We sent a letter to the president yesterday. We sent it to his official residence. Former Minister of Health Rajitha Seenaratne had the opportunity to remove him, saying that he is Mahinda's man. But he was more interested in his competency. He condemned Rajitha Seenaratne in public, but Rajitha did not remove him.
It was during that period he was appointed. He started working with us at that time. That was when the government was toppled.
We saw that Venerable Muruthettuwe Anandathero has filed a complaint to the President that the director of the MRI Institute, Dr. Jayaruwan Bandara, has been removed. At a time when COVID-19 has re-emerged in a much more severe manner, the Prime Minister can give me an answer if he wishes to do so.
වැඩ බලන අධ්‍යක්ෂකතුමෙක් තමයි ඉඳලා තියෙන්නේ. PSC පත්වීම ලැබිච්ච අධ්‍යක්ෂකතුමා විදේශ පුහුණුව ඉවර කරලා අවසන් වෙලා නැවත.
After completing his BSc overseas, the director returned to this post again. At that time, he was the deputy director who also served as the acting director.
අධ්‍යක්ෂකතුමා විදේශ පුහුණුව ඉවරලා නැවත වැඩ බාර අරගෙන තියෙන අධ්‍යක්ෂක තනතුර.
Meanwhile, parliamentarian Harin Fernando had subjected himself to a PCR test today. Concerns were raised in Parliament today regarding parliamentarian Harin Fernando attending parliamentary sittings against such a backdrop.
අපි දැක්ක මේ දැන් ටිකකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා
We saw MP Harin Fernando had posted on his Twitter that he had subject himself to a PCR test. Usually a person would subject himself to a PCR test if he or she has a suspicion that they may have contracted COVID-19. It may be the same as his father asking him not to attend church on the day of the April attacks. We will suffer in the end. If he did subject himself to a PCR test, he has a moral responsibility to self-quarantine.
Honourable Speaker, I should mention this. We are dissatisfied with the quantity of tests which are being conducted in the country at the moment. I do not have fever or a phlegm. The government urges everyone to subject themselves to PCR tests. Since none of the government MPs are willing to subject them to PCR tests, we did it to show the people that it does not hurt. We are disappointed in this government which shirks its responsibilities. Better safe than sorry. We are public representatives. We go to the people. I would like to make a request, Honourable Speaker, direct all 224 of them for PCR tests.
Meanwhile, the Professionals National Front says that the outdated quarantine laws should be amended. How did the Russian pilots enter private hospitals without undergoing quarantine? When we saw the amount of turmeric that was smuggled to the country from India, we can imagine the amount of migrants that cross boundaries illegally. Against such a backdrop, can we face this situation under the old laws? For example, the quarantine ordinance was amended the last time in 1952. 19 quarantine regulations were introduced. Shouldn't those be amended in a way they suit the modern day? New laws also should be introduced. I don't think those who refuse to undergo treatment come under the purview of these laws. The 19 regulations must be specialized and made specific.
සංශෝධනය කරලා අලුතෙන් හඳුන්වා දී යුතුයි හඳුන්වා දෙන්න පුළුවන්.
Meanwhile, views were expressed regarding the 20th Amendment to the Constitution at a media briefing organized by the Samagi Janabala Vegel.
අපේ නීතිපතිතුමා ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණයේදී 20 වන සංශෝධනය සම්බන්ධයෙන් පිටු 11ක
The media reported that the Attorney General had submitted an 11-page document to the Supreme Court regarding the proposed amendments presented by the government to the original amendment. I would like to know from the Prime Minister as to whether Cabinet approval is granted to this thing called proposal amendments. During which Cabinet meeting was it? Who apprised the Attorney General that these amendments were proposed? If so, is the Prime Minister aware of it? Many incidents occurred which brought to light that even those in the Cabinet were against this amendment. parliament. What are they doing in a hurry now? They are attempting to hinder the process of a debate being initiated in society. This is pure greed for power. Regardless of whether you represent the ruling party or the opposition, all MPs must act according to their conscience in this pivotal moment. As far as I know, the cabinet was only afforded 2 or 3 hours to discuss regarding this. In which country is the constitution amended in this manner? How many of those who supported the 19th are with them today? Can they reverse the democracy's progress which was made while upholding their dignity? Can they allow for a dictatorial rule to govern the country?
අධිපතිවාදී ගමනකට ඒවා බිල්ලට දෙන්න පුළුවන් කමක් තියෙනවද? අර මගේ ඉතත් මිත්‍රයා
My friend Mahinda Anandalut Gamage made a sweet statement in parliament. He said they will pass the 20th. They have to first stop those in the government from leaving. In the past the government was like this, now they are like this. They opposed Madam Kumaratunga first, then Vidura Vikramanayaka. Former Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa is also against it. So is Vimal Veeravansa. Vimal Veeravansa is now in trouble for revealing what was discussed behind closed doors. The government is imploding. They were opposed by Madam Kumaratunga first.
තුල තමයි කොළපව තියෙන්නේ. කචල්ලක තියෙන්නේ. මණ්ඩල කචල්ලක තියෙන්නේ.
විජේදාස රාජපක්ෂ වගේ අයත් එතුමා ඔය 19
I remember a certain person who worked to formulate the 19th Amendment. He is a learned person. He understands the gravity of the situation. That is their nature. Once they use people, they discard them and so on. Vimal Veeravansa is facing that now. If he had not done the amount of work he did, neither Mahinda nor Gotabe would be there. What they are doing now while being in Basil's team is disgraceful.
විමල් වීරවංශලා කෑ ගැහුවේ නැත්තම් මහින්දත් නැහැ ගෝටත් නැහැ. ඉතින් එතකොට ඒ මිනිස්සුන්ට දැන් බැසිල් ටීම් එකේ කට්ටිය එක්ක අහුවෙලා ඔය ගහන ගැහිල්ල හරි කැතයි.
In the face of the inability of the authorities to stop the damage caused to the environment by sand smugglers, the yarn oil is now facing major repercussions.
The banks of the Yarn Oya in Galinbinduravawa have been severely damaged as a result of the illegal sand mining that has been taking place for some time. Locals allege that a group is engaged in sand mining on both banks. Locals allege that a group was engaged in sand mining on both banks of the river without paying any heed to the well-being of the environment. This is how the Akkarasiya area in Kannimadua in Yarn Oya fell at the hands of the sand mafia. The officer in charge of the Galinbinduravawa police and a team of officers visited the area to inquire into the damage caused to the environment. Our correspondent stated that at that point, sand smugglers had left the area. The Galinbinduravawa police have commenced an investigation into the incident. A group has set fire to the roots of several kumbuk trees above the Kantali tank. Our correspondent said that such incidents have been reported in the area on several occasions previously. Locals said that although the authorities have been informed about this issue, no solution has been provided.
This racket has been continuing. This is done under the pretext of cultivating the land, and then they go on to sell the trees that are cut. Nobody is looking into this.
Residents said that the land grabbing and timber smuggling were damaging the kumbuk trees above the lake. Police officers arrived at the scene this afternoon and took steps to douse the fires.
Sand mining that has taken place in the Soisavatta area in Kochikade, where the Ma oil flows into the ocean, has caused a great degree of environmental damage. During the rainy season, most of the houses in Soisavatta village live in fear. The reason for this is the erosion in the Udangava, Murutena, Bambukulia, Soisavatta and Porutota areas on the southern bank of the Ma oil.
Now the biggest problem here is erosion. The right bank of the Udangava, Murutana, Bambukulia, Soisavatta and Portut areas have been eroded. That's because the sand was dug up a long time ago. That is why erosion has taken place. The river has gotten deeper. About 15 or 20 meters have been eroded. The biggest damage is during the rainy season.
Residents say their homes are also at risk due to the erosion of the banks.
There are 20 houses now, and in addition there are 30 houses that have eroded. The banks have been broken off. Previously it was 30 purchased, but now it is only 18 that remain of those lands. We are not even staying here. Piles of sand are breaking off from beneath. We ask that we be provided with some relief.
Almost every day rain causes our banks to break. It damages our homes. We have not yet found a solution to this. All we ask is that some sort of relief is given. Residents of the area are demanding that a speedy solution be provided to this problem.
The beach nourishment project at the Mount Lavinia beach that took place when the country was under lockdown due to COVID-19 stirred controversy at the time. This was after the sand that had been dumped on the beach had begun to wash away into sea. The aim of the project was to nourish the Calido, Agulana and Mount Lavinia beaches. The tender for the 890 million rupee project had been awarded to a Danish company. Regardless of the statements issued by officials afterwards, a major portion of the beach that was filled artificially using the funds of the people have been washed away. This is a reminder of the wastage of public funds that had taken place in the past.
Members of Parliament had the opportunity to pose questions to the Prime Minister in Parliament today.
Has the government taken action to thwart attempts by tobacco companies to legalize cannabis?
The government is working to strengthen and expedite the existing mechanism to prevent the promotion of cannabis and other drugs and to raise public awareness of its adverse health effects.
Do you not want to have a select committee in Parliament on this matter?
මම දන්න තරමට නෑ. ඉතින් ඔබතුමා දන්නවා නම් හොයලා බලන්න පුළුවන් ඉගෙන.
නෑ මට අගමැතිතුමා මම අහන්නේ ඔබතුමාට තේරීම් කාරක සභාවක් හෝ එවැනි ව්‍යුහයක් ගොඩනගන්න
පත් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඔබතුමා ඉල්ලනවා නම් අපි ඉගෙන සලකා බලන්න.
ඉල්ලනවා නම් සලකා බලන්න නෙවෙයි අගමැතිතුමනි. ජාතියේ ඊළඟ පරම්පරාව ගැන හිතලා ඔබතුමාට බැරිද එහෙම කමිටුවක් පත් කරන්න තේරීම් කාරක සභාවක්?
අපි ඉගෙන සොයන්න.
Was there an anti-corruption secretariat or a committee under the Prime Minister's office or one other with a similar name to which copies of complaints to the Police Financial Crimes Division were forwarded between 2015 and 2019? Under what legal provisions was the committee established?
An anti-corruption committee has been established as per a decision taken at the cabinet meeting held on the 21st of January. The cabinet has not paid any salary or allowance to the members of the anti-corruption committee during the relevant period. As per the decision of the cabinet ministers on 21st January 2015, approval has been given to establish the secretariat of the committee and to recruit the necessary staff to proceed. Accordingly, the Prime Minister's office has created a staff allocation of 44 officers and have paid their salaries and allowances. From February 2015 to June 2017, the Prime Minister's office paid around 33.71 million rupees for staff salaries and other expenses.
Honourable Prime Minister, I would like to know if Tusit Mudalige, who had been hired as an advisor to the Secretariat set up under the Anti-Corruption Committee, and Tusit Mudalige, who is currently the Deputy Solicitor General of the Attorney General's Department, are one and the same. We have an ethical issue here regarding the role of Tusit Mudalige. This illustrates to me a situation where a person working in one institution is working in another legal body and making money from both sides. I would like to hear if he selected cases at the Anti-Corruption Secretariat and whether that is how the witnesses were chosen when filing cases. The case against Honourable Basil Rajapaksa, case against Duminda Silva, case against Nama Rajapaksa, case against Yoshida Rajapaksa, even the case against Gamini Senarat. Tusit Mudalige has appeared as the prosecution or officer on behalf of the complaint. The person who instructed a case be heard ends up representing the party that files the case.
An investigation carried out by the Committee on Public Enterprises has revealed that the country had incurred a loss of 1.1 billion rupees due to the purchase of coal. The investigation had been carried out based on the Auditor General's report that covered coal purchases made by Lanka Coal Company since 2009.
The investigation revealed that the losses had been caused since the required quantity of coal had not been mentioned when Lanka Coal Company had called for tenders to procure coal. During a meeting of the Committee on Public Enterprises yesterday, it was revealed that Lanka Coal Company had purchased coal on short-term agreements instead of long-term ones in violation of the procurement procedure. The committee had summoned higher officials of the company to Parliament as part of its investigations.
The Colombo Stock Exchange closed on a positive note today after posting gains in both the All Share Price Index and S&P SL20.
The all-share price index gained 18.61 basis points to 5,553.22, 0.34% higher than the previous close, while the S&P SL20 gained 2.98 basis points to 2,275.20, 0.13% higher than the previous close. Turnover at the CSE marked 9 months high with 3.88 billion rupees today, while the capital goods and banking sectors were the main contributors. The primary bill auction saw under-subscriptions in all three maturities today. The auction, which offered 40 billion rupees worth of treasury bills, only sold 14.9 billion rupees treasury bills. The central bank had received bids amounting to 45.5 billion rupees, 1.14% of what was offered.
The secondary bond market witnessed slight buying interest during the day compared to the previous trading sessions, while the yield curve witnessed about 10 to 15 bips dip in yields. However, primary bill auction held today saw an undersubscription in all three maturities, falling short of more than half of the total offered amount. 3-month bill increased by 6 bips to 4.57, while 6 months and 1 year bill increased by 6 bips and 10 bips to 4.70 and 4.99%.
And with that, wrap up news for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Do take care and good night.